welcome back to Skilled Nation, where we shine a light on real careers, real skills, and the trades that are powering the next generation. Today we're getting wired. Literally, we're stepping into the world of electrical line worker, where the work is complex, the demand is sky high, and the payoff is serious. Whether you're lighting up homes, wiring high-tech systems, or keeping entire facilities running, electricians are the people who make modern life possible. And guess what? You don't need a 4-year degree to do it. In this episode, we're in for a treat. We're talking to an instructor of electrical line worker, Scott Politakis, at Tulsa Welding School, and getting the scoop on the tools, the training, the first jobs, and the kind of career security that most people only wish they had. If you're curious about a path that keeps your mind sharp, your hands working, and your bank account growing, well, this could be the spark you've been waiting for. So let's not delay. Let's get wired. All right, Scott Politakis, welcome to the show.
Hi, Jimmy. Glad to have you. Glad to be on. Thanks for having me.
Well, I want to hear about your background. You don't just, step into a school and start teaching. You have to have a career behind you to impart those skills. So how did you get into the trades? What was your path?
I actually went to a trade school myself. That's how I got into it. In 2001, I went to a trade school and got hired at week 12 while I was there in the trade school, and never looked back. Been doing line work ever since.
All right, so wait a minute. You got hired, it sounds like, in week 12 of a how long program?
15-week program is what a typical line worker program is.
So they didn't even wait for you to finish. They just said, let's hire this guy. So that speaks a little bit to demand. Talk about the demand for this skill set.
The demand is quite high. It's a dangerous work position. Not everybody is made to put little spikes on their feet and climb up 45 foot in the air on a pole. So, it does make a deal for demand, right? Not everybody wants to do it. So working outside in the weather all the time, working in whether it's hot, whether you're a hurricane, it's 120 degrees, or if you're, it's an ice storm and you're freezing. So you're always out in the weather. That makes for a demand,
Yeah, it weeds out the people who just aren't really drawn to it. And what drew you to it? What was the appeal?
Well, I was actually a coal miner's son rather than a coal miner's daughter.
That's okay. You have your own song, Wichita Lineman. Come on, it's a classic. Glenn Campbell.
Still on the line. So yeah, my father was actually worked in the coal mine. So they had substations, and they actually run 4,160 volts inside of the mines that run their equipment, the miners and the scoops and everything. So as a kid, my dad was kind of like on call, and he would have to go up there and fix things. And sometimes I got to tag along, and I was just I really liked being around it and seeing what my dad done. So I just kind of followed suit.
And was there a point where you realized, okay, this isn't a job, this is a career. This could change my life. Was there a point where that light bulb went off?
I would say that light bulb went off after I graduated the 15-week lineman training center, and a company in Texas put me on an airplane and flew me all the way to Texas from Georgia to interview me. And I was like, wow. This is like a real company. This is a real career. They're flying me in an airplane just to for interview. So I just set the wheels to spinning. Hey, this is not your average job. This is a career.
And when you talk about the weed out, right? You're in the weather. You're up high. 40. What would you say? 45 feet in the air. Mm-hmm. That weeds a lot of people out who just don't want to have those kinds of physical challenges in their job. But whenever there's a weed out, whenever it's a smaller pool of people with the skills and the demand is high, that means there's some pretty good pay, because it's all about supply and demand. What can somebody going through a training program expect to make coming out? And then what path can they be on? Like, what is the opportunity for income growth over the course of a career?
So if you go into actual power line work, so most students will start out somewhere around $80,000 a year. Right after the 15 weeks, right? As soon as they get a a job. Your average journeyman lineman in the IBEW makes about $200,000 a year. And it takes them 4 more years of training once they're out in the field to reach that journeyman level status. So they're 4 years away from $200,000 pretty much.
Okay, how are you not beating people away from this program with a stick? My gosh, that's really enticing. That's big money. That's life-changing money.
It is life changing money. I think the heights keeps a lot of them away.
You know what? It's a common phobia. Fear of heights is one of the common phobias. Do you actually have to give any advice about how to handle that? Like, is there situations with vertigo or just knowing your horizon? What kind of advice do you give about that part of it? The being up high all the time.
Great question. Trust the system. Trust the system. Okay. Everybody's going to be nervous the first time they get on a pole. It's human nature. You just have to trust the system and keep climbing the pole, keep going it, keep doing it every day. And eventually it starts becoming fun, and once we start in the program, we'll race kids up and down the pole, and start doing competitions with each other, try to get their mind off of actually being up there, and so different things like that. And then just one day it'll click on them. I mean, they got it. They're not worried about being up there no more. They're ready to go climb. They're ready to go have fun. It turns out the career is actually a lot of fun. It is a lot of fun, especially if you're an adrenaline junkie, something like that. It's great for those type of people.
What do you mean adrenaline junkie? What is it that's kicking the adrenaline in?
Well, let's see. We got the fear of falling. We got the fear of electricity, 7,200 volts or higher that could shock me. So, there's a lot of things there. It's a very dangerous job. So, it could result in fatalities or whatever. So, the little kid that jumped his dirt bike, because the chicks dug it or something like that. That's the kind of people we need to do line work.
And I imagine that a huge part of your program, foundational part of your program, because of those hazards, is safety. Can you talk about the emphasis that you put on safety and what are some of those safety protocols?
Very first thing I do when I open up with a class is safety starts day one and it never ends the rest of your career. Every day is about safety. Wearing your PPE is something that you have to do every day. I don't care if it's 100 degrees and you have to wear these gloves and sleeves all over your arms and hands and it's hot and you want to take them off. No, that's a no. All right. That's how linemen get hurt, get injured by not wearing them with the PPE. Being adaptable. Adaptable is a very, very big thing with being a lineman work. You got to keep your cool. You know what I mean? You can't get up there and get mad or get frustrated and go to slinging things. You're going to sling something into that hot wire and get yourself electrocuted. Things change a lot immediately. Your crew could be set up over here, right? We're just doing a pole change out. And on the other side of town, the trash truck gets into the power line and rips a pole down. All right. So now we have to get where we're working on now, get it in a safe place where we can leave and then roll up in the trucks, go to the other side of town, get that pole fixed because we got lights out now. So once the power goes out, man, whatever you're doing, you stop, you go get the lights on. That comes first.
And this has just popped into my head. You're talking about climbing poles. This seems like very physical work. You must be in great shape, and people doing this must be in great shape. I'm thinking of climbing poles all day. That seems like a total body workout.
The towers, when you climb towers, they're even more of a workout to me to climb the tower than it does the pole. The pole uses more just of your legs, a lot of you down with your legs. Actually, when you're climbing steel towers, it takes everything. Though I remember the first time I climbed the steel tower, it's 110-foot tower. And when I come off that tower, I'm telling you what, I could have been in the gym and worked out no harder than the way my muscles was burning when I got off that tower. It was a great workout. So I wouldn't mess with the guys that climb poles or towers. They're in pretty good shape. You're right.
Well, in addition to make great money, you can save money on that gym membership. You don't need it.
Right. Yeah.
What about are there women in this career, or is this strictly a boys' club?
Absolutely. Yeah, we have women that come into the career. Not a lot, but yeah, it seems to be growing more and more with women in the career. There is a trade, right? It's not for everybody. right? So it does a lot of physical, strenuous work, but it doesn't matter really if you're female or male. It depends on whether you have the strength and the ability to do it.
And I want to circle back to when we talk about the safety. You're talking about how many volts are going through these lines that you're working with when you're actually up on a pole. So that's a precarious situation, and there's the inherent danger of being up high. What kind of voltage are we talking about?
So your distribution voltage is mainly what we can use rubber gloves on.
Mm-hmm.
So it's usually up to about 34,000 volts. So it's a different system depending on your town, pretty much. If you have a lot of people in your town, something like Irving, Texas here, of course, we're going to have 14,000 volts up there on the line. You want more voltage because more customers, more demand, more amperage. So volts usually is higher in your bigger areas. And then when you get into transmission, that's actually the power lines that just go from town to town. They're like interstate freeways, right? They just go from one town to the next. And they're just carrying voltage to those distribution substations. So you're talking about 765,000 volts, something like that, that's on those lines. Now, we cannot work them with rubber gloves. So usually it's either we have to use insulated sticks to work it or what we call barehanding.
Okay, and this seems like we talked about future proof. I'm seeing all these like data centers for AI and things like that that are just using enormous amounts of energy. Is this a growing demand for more and more lines, but also lines carrying more voltage?
Absolutely. That's one of the reasons there's such a big demand for it, right? The industry right now, just think about this. What if everybody had an electric car? There's no way that the grid could handle that if everybody went home and plugged in their car. So all that is happening right now. All of that is they're ramping up all the different things, building new power lines that can carry enough voltage to where if the world actually does do that one day, then system can handle it.
And how much do your students in your classes learn about the system? Because a lot of people see, you drive along, you see the kind of loop of the wires kind of loping down the freeway along with you. But you're talking about substations that are storing. You're talking about storage capacities, delivery. Describe our electrical grid and system kind of, for basics, for beginners. What all are these components that are powering our homes?
Right. So, yeah. So basically, we start out here and we teach them about how electricity is generated, first of all, in a generation station. And then how it hits a transformer, it'll step up the energy to whatever voltage you need. That's going to go in your transmission line if you want to step up to 765,000 volts or whatever. And then it'll go to a distribution substation and they'll step the voltage back down. We use transformers to do all this stepping up and the stepping down of the voltage. And so they will step it down into a system like we talked about, 14,400, 7,200 volts. And then when it gets to your house, right, it just like the bus, it stops. There's a transformer there hanging on the pole, and that transformer is going to step it to 12240, and it's going to go up into your house. So they learned from generating it to how to build the line, how to set the poles, how to hang the transformer, and get the service to the house and get electricity to it. So
they're doing every part of that system. Then they're doing transformers as well. That's incredible. I've seen those transformers blow, and they're full of liquid, correct?
That's correct. That's correct. Full of oil. That's what keeps them cool, actually, is the oil inside of it.
So that's why they're so big. Is this mostly about cooling the system?
Yeah. The bigger the load you need, right? So if you're gonna have let's say 20 an apartment complex hooked to a transformer, you're gonna need a big one, like a 167. If it's just a house out in the rural area, just a little small 15 kVA would work, so they're rated in kVA, kilovolt amperage. And so the bigger the load you need, the bigger the transformer is going to be.
And so what does a typical day look like? Is there a typical day?
A typical day? Depends on what you're doing. The good thing about it is it's not monotonous. It's not like we do the same job every day. We might be on, we would call it a hitch or call it something like that. We got 30 poles to change out. All right. So that's going to take us 2 weeks. So for that 2 weeks, that's all we're doing is changing out poles. The next job may be building a line to a new existing customer, right? That needs power out. Somebody bought a big ranch or something and needs 10 poles set to get out there to that. Or it could be just infrastructure. They're making the highway wider. We're going to move all the power lines over. Um, Also, reconduct is something that's big going on right now. It's just wire can't handle the amperage, right? Because the world's growing and growing. So you got to make the wire bigger. So reconduct. So there's are several things you do, you know, it's day in and day out, just waiting on the next job. We finish this when the next job starts.
And tying it into like news people might be hearing in headlines and stuff like that, everyone talks about we need to change out the power grid. So that seems like there's going to be, between that and these data centers and the AI, is going to fuel even more growth. So it sounds like this is kind of, you talk about a future proof. People are worried about, AI is going to take my job or something like that. This seems like a job where, as far as you could see ahead, there's job security. Would you say that's true?
Absolutely. That is one of the reasons, yes, I got into it. Yeah. So I thought there's two things in the world, right? Transportation, right? Everybody, the truck's got to get the container to wherever it's going, or electricity, right? So electricity's got to get from point A to point B. So that was the two things I looked at when I was actually got into line work, So yeah, it's I don't see it going anywhere.
We're speaking with Scott Politakis, instructor of electrical line worker at the Tulsa Welding School. And what's the pitch? If somebody's out here listening to this podcast and they're feeling stuck, maybe they're in a dead-end job, maybe they're unsure whether they want to go to college or take a different path. Yeah, what's the pitch? What would you tell them about becoming an electrical line worker?
Get off the couch, put the video game down, and start playing the game of life. It's way more fun.
Yeah, yeah. And how hard is that entry ramp to get onto that game of life? I mean, is it, how accessible, how doable is this for somebody?
Yeah, it's very doable. I have 20 right now that started. They're all out there doing it right now. It's very doable. You just the program's built on that, right? So we're going to give you the confidence. And over the 15-week span, once that confidence is there, you'll be able to sit down in front of somebody and know that you can do the job.
Is step one visiting a campus, or is it going to the website, or what's the best way to kind of onboard? Do you do any kind of open houses? How do people feel it out?
Everything that you said. Yes, everything you said. We even try to get students off TikTok, right? They're scrolling on their phone. They see something cool we do. They pop on it, pop up, Tulsa Welding School pops up. And then, somebody maybe contacts them, sets up a tour. They come check out the school, come check out the line worker thing. They get to meet me. So I talk to them and tell them how great it is and how it changed my life and all that stuff. And it seems to work. A lot of kids show up and we get to have a lot of fun while we're here for 15 weeks. It's not all hard work. You got to have a little fun.
No, you're the closer, Scott. When they want to sell someone on the school, they bring them to you. All right, let's do some quick Q&A here. All right, what's more satisfying? Flipping a breaker back on or getting your final inspection sign off?
Tell you what the most satisfying thing to us is, if when you do this work, and that hurricane hits, right, or an ice storm, and then you got millions out of power, right? The first thing you do when you get there, it's a real humbling thing, right? Because you see people that have lost their homes, right? And then there's a guy right next to him, but his house is still there, so we got to get electricity to him. But the thing about it is, when you're in there and say we're there for 21 days or whatever, getting the lights back on, people can start rebuilding their life because we were able to come in there and get the electricity back on. Once that electricity and that energy is restored, the rebuild process starts for families and for towns and everything like that. So I'm going to say that's the most rewarding thing to me.
Yeah, absolutely. It's work with a bigger purpose because you're really helping out those families.
Sure.
So can you remember, I want you to project back to early in your career when you're doing this line work, that first big check you got. How did it make you feel, and what'd you spend it on? What'd you do?
The first one or the last one?
Well, let's do both. Let's start with the first one. The first one that kind of made you go, wow, I'm in a career that's, that's putting me at a different level financially. What was it and how did you feel and what'd you do with it?
I probably the first one I don't really recall. I do know that when I first started, I worked Hurricane Rita, Hurricane Katrina, and Hurricane Wilma all that year, and I was able to pay off my tuition from my lineman college with those three storms. Uh, Through the years, I bought side by sides with storms. I'm paying a nice down payment on a brand new pickup, boats. So yeah, we buy our toys. We save some of it, and every storm, you can spend a little bit here, spend a little there. And so yeah.
Man, especially when you're talking about those devastating storms, helping an entire community get back on their feet has to be so satisfying. What's that feel like?
And that's the best thing. We when you pull out of there, we take the truck from wherever you're working, right? And you're going to drive it all the way. Say we're going to Florida from Texas. You drive that truck all the way from Texas to Florida. All right. And then once you get those lights on that little town, it's on to the next town, right? We got this town on, now we're going to the next town. So when we pull out of that town, it's a parade of trucks, right? And people are just out there applauding. They're just so happy that we got the lights back on for them. They'll do the same thing when we roll into the next town. They're out there in the streets, it's applauding, clapping for us. Glad we're here. They know they're going to get power. So yeah, that's some good stuff that happens.
Yeah, that's got to be extraordinary. That's gratifying. So, is there a lesson that you've learned on a job that you wish somebody had just told you when you were first getting started, when you were in training?
Absolutely. Two things. First of all, keep your mouth shut. Second of all, be a sponge, absorb everything, and be adaptable. Be adaptable. And learning a trade, just because they're saying there's more than one ways to skin a cat or things like that, right? So if somebody teaches me this way, and somebody else teaches me another way, well, they're not teaching me the wrong way. They're just teaching me another way how to do it. So I didn't quite understand that when I was growing up through his apprenticeship, But then there was one day I needed to do it like the other guy showed me because the way I wanted to do it wasn't going to work. So being adaptable and learning different ways to do things, that's the key. That's the key. That's what makes you a well-rounded journeyman lineman.
Adaptability and an open mind. This has been enlightening. I had no idea there was so much going on in the career and behind the scenes of the power that I just plug in to take for granted every day. Scott Politakis, instructor of electrical line worker at the Tulsa Welding School. Thank you so much for sharing some insights and just a feel for this amazing career path.
Absolutely. Send them by Dallas, Texas. Tell them to come sign up.
All right. Send them on the tour. If you want the tour, Scott's the closer. He's the guy to see.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks again, Scott. That's a wrap on episode 5 of Skilled Nation. Big thanks again to Scott for showing us how the electrical trade isn't just about wires. It's about building a powerful, secure future with skills that are always, and I mean always, in demand. Hey, it's a way of life and it's a badge of honor. And if today's episode got you thinking about where your own spark could lead, well, leave us a review. Like it. Subscribe, and tell your friends. Head to tws.edu or rsi.edu to check out hands-on programs, scholarships, and real-world training that gets you from the classroom to the job site fast. Okay, next week, we're going deeper into the high-tech heart of industry with a look at advanced industrial maintenance technology, or as it's shortened to, AIMT. This isn't your typical trade. We're talking about the pros who keep entire factories, robotics, and automated systems running. From programmable logic controllers to hydraulics, pneumatics, and advanced diagnostics, AIMT techs are part mechanic, part electrician, and part problem solver. So if you're the type who loves tech, thinks logically, and wants a career where no 2 days are the same, this is the episode for you. Until then, stay sharp, stay curious, and keep building your future. This is Skilled Nation.